What was your high school's huge scandal? My shop's teacher catfished a 13Y/O girl, raped her, murdered her, buried her on the path most of us took home but also remained teaching for 3 weeks until they figured it was him. Some people were jerking off in the back of the bus while going to a football game and busted a nut on someone who was sleeping. Football coach got fired for it. I'll rank them based on how truly scandalous they were. 5. 2 boys got caught having sex in the school toilets. 4. A kid got caught with heroin. Apparently he found it on the street and picked it up to give to a teacher, but then forgot about it. The version I heard was he was holding it for an older sibling. 3. A kid set fire to the school bus while we were all on it. He stole strips of magnesium from class and wrapped it around one of the chairs on the bus before setting it alight. 2. Our history teacher had sex with a student. 15. 1. A girl got drunk at a house party and masturbated with an empty bottle of vodka on a dining table. People recorded it with their phones. It went viral, I guess, in a more limited sense. All the other local schools were talking about it / sending the video around. Then one day she went home to discover that her dad had seen the video. One of his colleagues came up to him during break and said, "Have you seen the video of that wee slag?" not knowing it was the guy's daughter. Then showed him the video. 3 of my teachers got arrested and fired for impregnating female students. All 3 of these men were turbo flexers who never missed an opportunity to show off how badass they were in front of the class. Creepy ducks. In my second last year of high school, a guy in my year started a political movement. This guy was running for co-pres. He was well liked by the student body, but not popular compared to the other candidates. During his speech to the school he said some things that upset a few people. The first one being that he called the election a popularity contest. This upset the spoiled white girls that were running as well. It was well known that these 2 featherheads wanted to be elected together. So they complained to the principal. The principal then disqualified the guy because he used the word dickhead in his speech. This pissed off a lot of the students that weren't part of popular crowd. When election day came around, several people used the voting paper to voice their disapproval. Shortly after, there was protests in the halls with people wearing duct tape on their mouths. In addition, people had made buttons saying "Free the Wang," Wang being the guy's last name. The movement was escalated so much that it made the local news. What happened in the end? The 2 girls got what they wanted and became co-pres together. The principal did relent after all the protest and allowed the boy to be part of the student council. The Free the Wang movement was legendary in my school. A 12-year-old boy was hospitalized after taking too much diazepam /U200B/U200B. The 17-year-old that sold them to him was expelled and was found dead in a river later that year. Wasn't high school but UK college. Some guy had invited a girl he had met in class round for a photo shoot as he wanted to become a photographer and wanted to practice. He wanted to get into surrealism photography to make film covers and stuff. Or so he told her. He asked the girl to stand on something with a rope round her neck for the photo, and then told her he would edit the box she was stood on out with Photoshop when editing. He kicked it from under her whilst the camera was recording. He then went on to rape the girl's lifeless body in different rooms of the house whilst taking photos and filming. Later in the day he put her in the back of his stepdad's, who was on holiday with his mom, van, drove her into Wales, and dumped her body. Before dumping the body he stopped at a cinema and watched a movie while she was in the back of the van in the car park. Long story short, the body was found by a dog walker and the guy was found and arrested in Glasgow a few days later. Turns out he had specifically chose this girl. After his computer was searched, police found loads of Facebook profile pictures of girls from our college on it, only they all had a noose photoshopped around their necks. Art to shop teachers got caught making out. A coach got fired after passing some creepy notes to underage girls. Everyone's, myself included, favorite teacher Of course he had to be the English teacher. Turned out to be a convicted pedophile who flew California after his jail sentence and began teaching in my home country, a poor Central American country where no one knew who he was. He taught all grade levels at my school. We had pre-K through high school, and no one ever thought to run a background check on him until my senior year of high school. Somehow one of the teachers found out about his past and alerted the principal. The principal got fired. So did the teacher, and our graduation almost got cancelled due to the scandal. We ended up graduating though, and the teacher opened up a California-style burger joint a couple blocks away from my house. My friends and I have seen him at the mall, and we've avoided contact, even though we used to worship this guy. Pretty crazy honestly. You really never know anyone. Tawana Brawley. She was a 17-year-old girl who went to a party she wasn't supposed to go. She then goes and covers herself with dog tea and makes up a story in which 6 white men sexually assault her so she wouldn't get in trouble with her parents. One of those men later committed suicide. Someone burned half of it down while classes were in. That was a pretty big deal. The vice principal of my Catholic school was charged with aggravated rape of a minor, one of the students. The worst part is, because he was so beloved by the students, some of them started bullying the student they thought was the one who pressed charges. It was horrible. Not high school, but my elementary school had the entire country in massive shock when 2 children were kidnapped and almost untraceable for about 2 weeks before they found out it was their dad all along. He ended up murdering them and leaving them somewhere in a field. Honestly felt like some bad action movie. One time at a party, this guy left his little sister alone to go smoke. When he came back she had an allergic reaction and he left to drive her to the hospital. Apparently on their way there, she stuck her head out the window because she couldn't breathe, and he swerved and ran into a telephone pole which ended up decapitating her. Later found out he was in a cult and he was the embodiment of Satan. German language teacher was accused by a former student of trading a good grade in exchange for a blowjob. No one believed it because the guy was well liked and was the nicest dude you'll ever meet. Then another former student came forward with the same story, and another, and another. Turns out the guy was getting blows for most of the 1980s. In the end, it turned out all the students were 18 or older at the time, and the statute of limitations had run out on the abuse of power side of things, so the school couldn't much more than quietly and quickly move him into an early retirement. Not sure if this fits the bill of a scandal, but during an assembly, a representative from a local blood bank was giving a PowerPoint presentation about the importance of donating blood. A while into the assembly, he somehow accidentally opened his spank folder, briefly displaying pornographic images over the projector. The principal sent an apology letter home with the students to the parents. It also made the news. There were sex scandals, but those are boring. Our newspaper ended up uncovering a huge money laundering / embezzlement scheme by the principal and others. When confronted, he unilaterally cancelled the newspaper and fired the journalism teacher. So we got together after school and printed the paper anyways, as well as getting local news involved. He ended up getting arrested by the end of the year and newspaper was reinstated. Good times. Someone took their own shit from the toilet and threw middle of the hallway because his controlling friend told LMAO. Also a girl, 16, tried to frig with a teacher. Real story. So cringe. He obviously declined because real life isn't a Netflix show. It slipped somehow and she changed schools. Private school owners fought, ended the mutual ownership, and the one left closed our school in favor of the posher one under his wing. I'm glad to say he went bankrupt a few years later, and the other school closed as well. I'm sorry this is nothing compared with what others have related, but I'm glad times were boring during my teens. Just your run-of-the-mill pedophile priest, who was joined by the school science teacher in hitting on a student. The school was closely linked to a chapel that turned out to be a nest of pedos. Every year I was in high school, but once someone died. Oh, and our senior year one of the science teachers was ducking a student. She was 18, so he didn't get arrested, but he was obviously fired and stuff. My mate stabbed a guy in the face many times with a protractor. Race wars regularly. White and blacks v Asians. Armed police patrolling the school. Had a knife put to me in year 7. About 12 years old. Regularly smoking weed on breaks. Other mate got caught having sex in toilets year 8. 2 triplets kicking the shit out of the 3rd. One of the pastoral teachers were a pedophile and was texting underage girls. A music teacher was a pedophile and had slept with some underage children too. I think so anyways. My biology teacher was flirting and asking for nudes from year 11s, 15 to 16. He was a really good teacher. I was 12 to 13 at the time, and he was but every joke after that. One of my teacher's husband was also a teacher before I was in high school, and he went to jail for having a sexual relationship with a student. My poor teacher was never the same after that. A few things. 1. A kid was bullying another kid really bad and the kid stabbed him in the head with a pencil. I actually saw it. I was like 2 feet away. Kid ended up being fine, but it was a pretty big deal. 2. A bunch of kids got charged with child pornography because this girl sent a pic to a bunch of guys and they put it on MySpace, but her dad was a cop and he found out and charged them. 3. The softball coach, women, got caught hooking up with one of the players in the school. She was fired. 4. Our baseball coach got caught hooking up with a ton of students and also had a relationship with one, but since they were all 18 the school let it go, even though some happened in the school. He was a really good coach and they liked whining, so they kept him. 5. The ICE teacher got fired for downloading 18 hours worth of child porn onto his school computer. 6. One kid ended up stabbing a girl and trying to kill his GF after graduation. 7. Another kid became a psycho stalker. 8. We had at least 3 bomb threats and lockdowns a year 9. People were suspended for being drunk like twice a year. I'd like to note I went to HS in a very rich town and like a good area, so it's kinda crazy. This guy from my school was talking to this girl from our rival school. They'd met on Tinder or something. They start sexting and sending photos, and out of the blue, totally unprompted, she sends a video of her doing some sex act with her dog. For some reason she thought he'd like it. Naturally word gets out. Guy shows the video to his friends and it spreads. She makes a Twitter post apologizing for upsetting people, but then finishes it off with, "What happens between me and my dog is not your business." Last I heard she moved pretty far away after graduation. Art teacher ran off with a student. He was 19 at the time because he was held back. I don't know if he ever graduated, but I remember it being the talk of the school for a while. Our school used to let us go out to the track during lunch if we were done, but that stopped when some psycho kid ran around shanking people with a syringe during this time. The computer teacher married the shop teacher. The computer teacher cheated on the shop teacher. The shop teacher shot himself in the head. Football player took a shit on someone while they were sleeping and posted it on SC. Got all his scholarships taken away, but was never expelled and didn't even get taken off the team. Married high school vice principal was ducking a secretary at the school. No idea if she was married, and he was caught when his wife was at a staff barbecue thing at the end of the year and said something along the lines of, "What were all those emergencies about on Saturdays this last year?" Turns out he was just meeting the secretary to duck and told his wife the school has an emergency. Side note, they did both disappear into his office together, and the door was closed after school, but nobody thought much of it until after they were both fired and the story got out. Hey, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.